Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. It's always important to pay attention to when there are drills occurring around large events. And a subscriber over on the website who goes by the name Jesus Saves shared this over on the website because they came across a news story talking about how there are mass casualty drills being held in Chicago in preparation for the Democratic National Convention. And for those of you that don't know how this works, the majority of events that you know of that have happened in our lifetime, most of them can be linked directly to active drills. In some cases, like that 11th day of September back in 2001, there was literally a military drill occurring at the same exact time, simulating the same exact event that went down. That's because these drills are not really drills. This is one of the ways they get away with this stuff if they're ever caught on scene, right? The same thing happened in Boston at the marathon, and I'll get into all of that in more detail. But we have to pay attention to stories like this when they're out there, because this story is about a mass casualty event at the Democratic National Convention. Now, of course, I'm not saying that that's actually going to occur, but paying attention to it is important because when they're doing simulations around these events, a lot of times these events go live. And they've been running simulations for a few months now in Chicago. There was even mention of it back in June that Chicago hospitals were holding readiness drills ahead of the Democratic National Convention. And this mass casualty event that they're running, this simulation that they're running, is in regards to a potential gas or chemical attack. Take a look.
They're doing it again to make sure they have it right.
Our biggest goal with this is turnkey mentality.
With the Democratic National Convention coming here to the United Center in just over a week, Rush Medical Center staged an emergency drill to ensure the staff is prepared for a mass casualty incident. Today's code triage alert simulates a gas or chemical attack.
Rush is the closest hospital to the DNC main site.
To be ready, the medical center equipped its ambulance bay to, if necessary, become a hazmat decontamination unit.
During any of these type of events, patients may experience contamination. Their eyes may be burning, their faces may be burning, they might have shortness of breath. But there's also individuals from our community that are having medical emergencies, and we can't expose those patients.
Once the doors open and security is going to be here to do crowd control.
Yep.
With the flip of a switch, isolation stations can be deployed, complete with ventilation and ceiling heaters and warm water.
Right here. They're going to get the IWA station.
The operation's up and running in minutes.
For this exercise, it was to really kind of show and demonstrate how our process of decon with a mass casualty incident occurs and what we do to get ready for that.
About a dozen hospital residents walked through the first receiver decon drill.
What if is chemical and there's trauma?
There were questions and more answers as the afternoon drill finished up. Since May, the hospital has had 17 disaster drills similar to this one. They're planning another one this afternoon. It's all in an effort to prepare for what no one wants to happen.
So the emergency drill that they're running, as ridiculous as it all looked, was in regards to a potential gas or chemical attack, which sounds very, very specific. We have seen a lot of predictive programming over the years in regards to concerts or events where there have been chemical or gas-like attacks, even going all the way back to the Batman movie, the very first one in 1989, where Jack Nicholson's character, the Joker, sprays the chemical gas onto the crowd at what was somewhat of a political-like event. So the other thing to keep in mind is all of these events, again, like I mentioned earlier, that end up happening, that we know of as quote-unquote history, are all simulations. We could look back at the Boston Marathon. MEMA conducted mock drills involving a bomb at the marathon the year before the event actually occurred. How convenient, right? We all know, again, about the military drills on the 11th day of September. Everybody should know, and if you don't and you've just woken up recently, now's the time to know about Event 201. Event 201 was the legitimate simulation of an outbreak occurring around the world. They called it Event 201, and then conveniently a few months later, we had what everybody was calling the coronavirus, right? We had Maui. I covered Maui last year in Lahaina. All of the leaders in Maui, the top emergency management officials, were on a different island on the day of those fires. What were they on a different island for? Well, they had a meeting on another island. What was the meeting about? It was about a wildfire occurring in Maui, the same one that did occur. And of course, all these events that happen at schools, there's always an active drill before these events go live. Even in Parkland, they admitted that there was an active drill right before the real event occurred. So people go, well, why would they run a drill? Well, when you run a drill and you have actors involved, it's like a dress rehearsal, isn't it? You have actors, you have dress rehearsal, you have everybody who knows where to be, where to position themselves, who to be interviewed, who not to be interviewed, how to make it all look, because you got to dress it up, don't you? You got to have some people with some blood stains on them, or it makes it a little bit difficult to parade it around the news and tell us that it's actually true, although they've gotten away with that in some cases in the past. Look no further than the hook at Sandy. So Chicago hospitals are preparing for an event to occur. Now, again, does it mean the event will occur now? No, it does not mean the event will occur, but we need to pay attention to it. Because if history has shown us anything, these drills do tend to go live. And there's usually preparedness beforehand. And the reason they tell us this stuff isn't just a part of predictive programming. They tell us this stuff because if people actually see that there's government officials or there's a staged thing going on at the school a week before it actually happens, they're going to be a little suspicious. And all it takes is for the news to report that it was a drill, or for the news to report that their hospitals are doing a preparedness demonstration for a chemical poisoning event, for a gas chemical bomb at the Democratic National Convention. All the people go is, oh, okay, well, they're just preparing. That's good. They're preparing. They would never think in a million years that it was actually dress rehearsal. So another thing to note is the theme of the left and the right, how important that is, right? These false events revolving around the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are very, very key in civil war, in civil unrest, in civil division, right? That's why it was very important as well for Donald Trump, for that event to occur. All it did was garner more support for Trump, more obsession for Trump, more hysteria and hypnotism being done on Trump's followers, right? And then more anger from the other side. So if we see some type of event occur at the Democratic National Convention, you know for a fact that it'll be some type of obvious Manchurian candidate that the government puts in place. And of course, he will identify as a conservative, probably a conspiracy theorist, right? We always get the same blueprints on these guys. He'll probably be dead. That's usually what happens at all these events. The person's dead. There's never a trial. Dead man can't tell lies. He'll leave a manifesto conveniently that'll talk about Jesus, Christianity, conspiracy theories online, and he'll fit the vision in people's minds of people like me and you. But more importantly than that for them is to continue this theme of civil unrest and civil division. So if a conservative does something at the Democratic National Convention, we'll start hearing themes like eye for an eye. Like this person felt like he needed to retaliate for Donald Trump. And the psychosis will get deeper and deeper and deeper. So the story, and as you just saw, was the emergency drill is being done to help ensure the staff is prepared for a mass casualty event. I'm sure it's all coincidence. They're calling it the code triage alert, which simulates a gas or chemical attack. To be ready, the medical center equipped its ambulance bay to, if necessary, become a hazmat decontamination area. As you saw some of the ridiculous footage of a guy with looked like a bath brush scrubbing down a dummy. I mean, I'm surprised they won't just say, and maybe they will. Maybe they'll just say there's another outbreak. Don't we have another whispers of outbreaks in other countries going on right now? We know the bird flu's lingering. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody there is masked up, worried about the bird flu. But they say during any of these types of events, patients may experience contamination. Their eyes may be burning. Their faces may be burning. They might have shortness of breath, but there's always an individual from our community that are having medical emergencies, and we can't expose those patients. With a flip of the switch, isolation stations can be deployed, complete with ventilation, ceiling heaters, and warm water. It's interesting that you think to yourself, okay, well, if there's going to be something at the Democratic National Convention, I mean, you could think of a lot of different things if they were going to do a false flag. The fact that it's so specific to chemical and gas is very interesting, right? Maybe even like an anthrax scare, something along those lines, which we haven't heard in quite some time, that the government loves to use to cause mass hysteria. You know, some of you may not remember. I mean, there was mass hysteria in the 90s, in the 2000s, that people were sending anthrax in mail to strangers with no motive whatsoever. Then there was this scare that they were sending it to politicians, and they've always had that seed with anthrax, so maybe they'll use something along those lines. Or maybe they'll just literally use the laughing gas or the purple the purple smoke gas from Batman. It wouldn't surprise me, because no matter how ridiculous these events look, the people believe it. And that's what hypnotism is. That's what hypnotism is. People refuse to believe that they're under hypnosis, that they're under a spell. This goes for Democrats, it goes for Republicans. And guess what? The spell that's being put on you is being put on you through the television, or whatever way you're consuming media. You might not have a TV. I hear people all the time like, I'm awake, I don't own a TV. And I'm like, okay, you're on your phone 24/7. Do you understand that it's the same thing, right? You're watching media on your phone. It's still a form of hypnotism. You don't need the box in the house if you got your phone in your lap, okay? You're consuming it either way. It's the same exact thing. It's hypnotism. So they can make these things look as ridiculous as you possibly could imagine. I mean, they could literally have people dressed up like clowns in the Joker and tell you that it's real, and these people are so deep in the left-right that the other side will refuse to believe, right? So if something happens at the Democratic National Convention, the Republicans will all say that it's staged. They'll all say that it's fake. Oh, the government did this to themselves, to frame us. But then when it happens to them with Donald Trump at a rally for Republicans and for Donald Trump MAGA supporters, they refuse to believe that the government would actually stage it to get them deeper in the psychosis. But that's exactly what they're doing. And the more they stage these events, the deeper in the psychosis these people go. They believe it more. They support the party more. So keep an eye on the story. Another drill taking place. We're not supposed to be suspicious. You're not supposed to think of all those events that I mentioned at once, because you might combust, your head might explode, because that's an easy way to wake people up, right? Hey, did you know that the bombing in Boston at the marathon, the Boston Marathon bombing, there was a drill the year before? They go, oh, okay, well, maybe they're just running a drill. Did you know on the 11th day of September? Oh, well, that's interesting. Did you know Event 201, right before COVID hit, that they ran a drill with the same exact simulation that occurred? Oh, I'm getting suspicious. How about Lahaina? How about any of these school events? And I just named a few off the top of my head. We can all trace every one of these events back to a drill that happens. And they just put that in place as a placeholder in case somebody does get suspicious and say, hey, a week before this event happened at a school, I noticed heavy police, a lot of police people were at the school. And then they go, oh, well, do you have a reason? Why were the police there? Were they setting? Well, the police were there because they were running a drill. And they're like, oh, they were running a drill to make sure kids are safe. Oh, okay. But they'll never in their wildest dreams think that it was was an actual simulation or a dress rehearsal. You see, when they go to concerts, or what should I call them? They go to the theater, they go to plays, or go to watch a movie. They're like, oh, I wonder how many times, they had to rehearse that to get it right. How many times did they have to practice singing that song, right? They don't realize they practice it just as much in the news, because it's more scripted than anything you would see in the movie theater or a theater itself. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.